We're going to start the City of Flagler Beach Planning and Architectural Review Board Monday, October 10th at 5:30. Will we stand, and Joanne, will you say the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Roll call.
Paul Chestnut. Present. Brenda Witherspoon.
Present.
Vice Chairman Scott Spradley.
Present.
Chairman Joseph Pizzoli.
Present.
Catherine Fine.
Here.
Joanne Selman.
Here.
Scott Chakias.
Here.
Full house. Approval of the meeting of the minutes from September 6th. Any comments, clarifications?
I actually have one.
Brenda?
Under my name,
What page?
on page 3 of 4, which are the board member comments.
What page are we on?
3 of 4,
Okay.
where it says Brenda Witherspoon. Mrs. Witherspoon stated the dumpster location appears hazardous for pedestrians, and I just wanted to clarify that I thought the change in the dumpster suggested by the city was hazardous. Big difference. Thank you.
Okay. Any other identifications, clarifications, grammatical issues?
None of those, but just a reminder is just to make the disclosure pursuant to law that Ms. Witherspoon also filed a voting disclosure on the outdoor entertainment matter for living within 200 feet, just to make the record with that.
Okay.
And that's attached to your minutes. You have that disclosure in your packet.
Hearing no other comments, do we have a motion?
Just one comment.
Yeah, Larry?
If the clerk would kindly spell my last name correctly next to the word dumpster.
Missed that one. Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve as corrected.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, meeting minutes approved. Any old business? No old business, new business. Application CSP number 22-10-01. Application to present a conceptual site plan, development plan, architectural elevations for a townhouse residential development. Larry?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you said, this is a conceptual plan review for a 4-unit townhouse complex at the corner of Village Drive and Palm Drive on the mainland. The property consists of just a little over a half acre. The development site is just at over 1/4 acre. I might note, just for the record, that the plan does show a density of 1 unit per 3,000 square feet, which will allow 4 units. The density actually should read 1 unit per 2,420 square feet, which actually would allow a 5th unit. Not that that would happen, but I just wanted to clarify that. The density is now 2,420 as opposed to 3,000. The units, 4 2-bedroom units, each has a garage. I have the owner is present this evening, as well as the representative. I would defer to the applicant to address any questions that you may have. I do have notes of my own, but let me say this now, that in looking at the site plan, all the relevant factors that pertain to honoring those development standards have been met. The 25-foot buffer has been applied. There's been a jurisdictional survey conducted. They do meet all of the development standards. The roadway in front of these units is actually an easement. Half of the easement being on this site and the other half being on the Bridgewater Townhouse development to the west. That being said, I would ask the chairman that if he has any questions or would like any comments from the applicant, they are present this evening.
Okay. Let's start with board questions. I'm going to change it up and start with Paul. Paul, do you have any questions?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Brenda?
Yes, thank you.
I'm Joe Parsons. I'm with Stevens & Wilcox & Associates, representing Mr. Blythe here.
Great, thank you. First question I had, are you proposing to sell or lease these townhomes
We are not. No, it will be maintained under the ownership of Mr. Blythe.
as rental?
Correct.
Okay. And I'm wondering, you're kind of the, are you the structural, are you the land guy? Is that what you're?
We're the site development, so the civil, everything foundation down, but we can do our best to answer questions about architectural.
Okay, well, I was just wondering if you were out there to see how that land fared during Ian hurricane.
You know, I drove by it and I did not stop. It's definitely something that we'll take into consideration with some survey data that we're able to collect from different houses in the area here after the storm.
Okay,
So.
probably a lot to learn from that.
Yeah, I think we all can learn from that,
Yeah.
for sure.
And I appreciate the movement of the roof line. I like the architecture, which you were not a part of. But as the owner, have you factored guttering into your pro forma? Because it is a water-sensitive area, and I think it's important with all the movement in the roof that gutters be considered, and I'm just wondering if you had thought of that, especially since you're looking at this for a long-term holding.
So if it's okay, I'm going to answer for him.
Sure.
From a stormwater perspective, we'll absolutely gutter it because we're going to collect it and send it to the retention area.
Okay, great. That's good to hear. And I'm getting older and my eyesight's not quite what it used to be. And I didn't want to assume, but it looks like both the exterior entry foyer and the downstairs lanai on the backs are going to be covered
That is correct.
under the roof line.
That is correct.
Okay, that's perfect. And since you're going to be an owner and the proximity to the wetland, I'm wondering if you have considered screening that lower lanai. Just a question.
Certainly an option.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there.
We actually have an upstairs porch as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have to think that through, but the thought is it turn into a storage area or not? And we don't really want it to turn into a storage area. With some input from our partner here at the city, we decided that it was a really wise idea to have a garage and
Absolutely.
a little depth to it. So we may have solved that problem in that sense.
Yeah, and if it's not a usable space, from my history, I know that it does turn into storage. So I was just asking, the upper one's more of a balcony where you step out, probably morning homeowners, and they're probably not going to be out there. But as far as the lanai, I think it would be beneficial and less likely to become a dumping site if it is usable, and that would mean a screen. So just a suggestion. I like the hardy board, the stucco, the collars, the gray shingles, all good. And since the owner's here, I just have one suggestion. I could talk to you afterwards as far as just something on one of the plans if you're willing to communicate.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
No questions at this time.
Kathy?
So you actually do have 10,000 square feet and not in the wetlands for this project? Because it's, I think you do. The project area is 12,000 square feet. But does that include any wetlands or the street? I mean, I don't really think you can include the street, the half of the street. I'm sorry.
So the project area does not include that area. I'll check to confirm it, but I'm
Okay.
almost positive. So you're saying we need to have 10,000 of usable
You
area?
need 10,000 square feet to do the unit for minimum 4 units of townhouses. Do the wetlands encircle the property? I mean, is it on all 3 sides or just the back?
It's on the side, the east side and the north side.
Okay, because the north side doesn't seem to have 25 feet in buffer.
Correct. So it does, it's just a little misleading on these plans, and I apologize. Larry actually reached out to me yesterday. He said, oh no, we have an issue. And I pointed out to him that it's not quite as bad as it looks. So if you were to look at the plans, you'll see the wetlands are marked with a crosshatch. And so on the left side of the property, which is the north, where it says 16 feet.
Right.
Beyond that, where that culvert pipe is, the mitered end section, that line there is actually the wetland line. So it is 25 feet all around the wetland.
Okay, thank you for that. Now your front yard setbacks, it looks like you're using half the street to get your 25 feet.
We are.
And you can't do that, I'm sorry. You really only have, I guess, 15 and whatever feet, from the front of that building, your residence to the street. It's supposed to be 25.
So, and I'm not trying to be difficult here, the code says that it's 25 feet from the front property line. And
Yeah, but your front property line is halfway in the street. Yeah.
Let me clarify
I mean,
this.
how does he actually own that, since it's the street?
That is not a street. It serves as an access drive to Village
Okay, so it's
Park.
really,
It's an easement. It's a 30-foot easement, 15 feet on this property that we're speaking of, and 15 feet on the Bridgewater property to the west. So the drive,
not even a street.
So Larry, when you say it's an easement, you mean it's a private easement?
it's a private
So
easement.
it's not a street?
It's not a street, even though people are going to drive on it.
It's like a private drive. It's like your driveway.
Pardon?
It's like a private drive. It's like your driveway. It's not owned by the city.
Oh, it
It's not-
doesn't
it's
go
not
any
a right of
further
way.
than there?
It's not a right of way. It's an easement between the property owners.
Okay, so this street doesn't go any further, to more,
It goes into the
people
development.
are going to be driving by. That's
Correct.
what I'm asking.
Correct.
And it's not just their private.
The only thing that correct me if I'm wrong, Drew, but all that an easement does, it's a conveyance of property for a use. However, whatever development standard you apply is taken from the property line. What that means by the easement is that nothing can be built within that easement. But you could actually build, if it was 25 feet to that easement line, you could actually build right on it. So for instance, if they did not have driveways, I asked that, well, if you're going to have garages, then you need to have at least 20 feet from the edge of pavement to the garage front. And if they weren't, and wherever that 25-foot mark fell from the property line, it could be 3 feet from the driveway, it could be 5 feet from the driveway. That would be compliant with the land development code. And as a matter of fact, if you're familiar with Annette Street, Bull Street at the south end, all those are not streets there, they're all easements. And each of those homes that are built there are built 25 feet from the property line.
And
The
all
reason
the
why they're
property
set,
lines go into the street, okay?
Yes.
And the street is paved,
it's paved.
okay?
And the term street, it really
It's not a
isn't,
street.
it's actually a
It says-
drive.
It's not a right of way. That's probably the better term
Correct.
to use for this conversation is right of way. It's not a right of way. It's a private easement.
It doesn't
As
belong to the
opposed to a city
city.
right of way.
The city doesn't maintain it. I'm presuming it's maintained by the HOA.
I'm laughing because it's a street, okay, and the city won't maintain it, okay. I wondered Brenda's question too, since it is, our intercoastal comes over the edge now in storms, and I was concerned about the impact of, that happening, flooding, and, we didn't allow building at the end of one of our the church property, remember Santa Maria del Mar's property at the end of that street? And we said, no, you can't build on it because those houses would be impacted. If
That wasn't the only reason.
That, I might remind you that the board,
Okay.
that was a rezoning.
Right.
That was much different than property
there was
that is.
a lot of wetlands and stuff, right?
Well, I assure you, as the engineers, we don't want to have something that's going to flood. We definitely don't want to have something that's going to be problematic and come back on us, liability-wise. So we want to make sure that we take a close look at that.
And your stormwater system has got to keep you're going to impact that piece
Correct.
of land for stormwater because it's
Absolutely.
not going to go in the ground anymore. And you've got to keep that out of the wetlands.
Absolutely. We will meet all the state requirements when it comes to stormwater and
And
managing that
the
property.
buffer, there's restrictions for it. I mean, people aren't going to be, you're supposed to leave the vegetation that's there and all this,
Absolutely.
stuff. So it abuts the property, and I just wondered if, that's a nice, not a great selling point to me, that I really couldn't use the yard for a lot of stuff.
I would agree with you if it was a single-family residential, but a lot of people who live in, multifamily units like this, they like to get away from that yard care and that type of scenario.
Yeah, true, that's great. Okay, so it was the restrictions and, okay, and the runoff. I guess those are my only questions. Thank you.
Of course.
I thought it was really an interesting concept and how you used you built the units to fit the property. I mean, I think I liked it very much.
Well, I can't say that we did it all on our own. Larry really was really helpful. We met with him several times through several iterations to make sure that we were appeasing the city and what they would be happy with, and of course the owner, and what we think would fit well with the aesthetics of the existing community.
I live on the other side of this marsh in the exact same position and look straight at it. Okay, so, I'm developing a property here that I feel, would, survive like Ian, like I did. And I think that it's probably going to be a major asset for our community. And as, as some of you have commented, we went into a little bit of effort with the architectural and trying to make some things, feel different, new, but still flag the beach. And then we also had the input from Larry about some of the things coming up with the new city requirements. And we worked really hard to meet those going in the door. So we're hoping that shows on the project.
I liked it.
Could you state your name, just for the record?
Yeah. I'm Mark Blythe.
Okay, thank you.
I'm done.
You done? Okay. Do you know your base flood elevation?
That's a good question. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I do know with Irma, when it came through, 5 feet is pretty much established for the city of Flagler Beach. And so 6 feet would be, right off the bat, would be what we would start at for the finished floor.
Okay. I live at 6'1", and it's not enough,
Okay, good to know.
just so you know.
All right.
And Larry, can I say, we were
What
talking
I
about...
can say is I don't hold me to this, but I thought the base flood was raised to 7 feet.
We're talking about raising it in the new code, but I don't know that we've done it, have we?
I thought that was already adopted. I'd have to check. That's
If it is,
more.
then all the better. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if I were you, I'd be looking at 10 feet. Because this is not going to do anybody good to flood.
Listen, we're not the footprint of this building, because of the retaining wall and all, one foot up or down, having, if you have a bunch of tenants and so forth. I mean, I agree. I think I was actually going to have that conversation with you about pushing it up a little, but I went by the lot right after the hurricane. Amazingly enough, it was high enough.
But we weren't as high as Irma
Yeah, I know. But
last week.
we were 8 inches from as high as we were in Irma, because I'm on the other side.
Yeah, that's probably about right. I was probably a foot away from having it back in my house. Yeah. Yeah. Just so you know, I mean, I'm in a pickle with my place. I don't know what to do with it.
Last thing I want to do is build something that's going to be a problem.
Absolutely.
When it gets right down to it, masonry and dirt is cheap, and up we go a little bit compared to, cleaning up.
Because even stem wall and ramp's going to solve your problem with elderly people wanting to get in and out. And we did that with my mother-in-law's, and that was the best move ever. She didn't flood.
Absolutely. So on
bottom
this
line.
particular development, the main, so we don't want to go too steep with our driveway slopes, right? So that will determine how low we're going to be with our garages. And then from there, if we need to add some steps to bring the finished floor of the living space up, we can. But the intent is going to be to allow grade, after we capture from what's on driveways, allow the grade to go down to natural, and we'll have exposed stem wall on the rear of the building.
Your insurance company's gonna like you too, the more you go up. So just food for thought, guys.
We appreciate
It's your
it. Thank
thing.
you.
I like I like how it looks. I'm happy with everything. It seems to fit well, and no other concerns, but just build it high enough where it doesn't become a problem to the city or to yourselves.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, were you going to sell these, or are you going to just rent these? Or just,
For the townhouses.
just a question, because it'd be a nightmare to try to figure out how to separate these things. They're not simple. No. But anyway,
This is intended to be, an apartment building.
yeah, okay.
So it's rentals?
Rentals.
Rental townhouses?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very popular.
Wow.
Yeah, I would be at a minimum of 7-foot finished floor elevation, period, not even think of going any lower. Higher the better if you can do it. I like how the puzzle all fits. It's very interesting. And they're all 2 bedrooms, except for the very end unit that's the largest, has 3. You have living on first floor and second floor, interesting concept. I don't know, I know that the bedrooms, you have to have a means of egress, and you're showing a minimum of 1 egress window, but I also know that there's a minimum light code. You have to have a certain amount of light into bedrooms and things. That might be something you might want to check to make sure that the 1 window suffices for your minimum light requirements. Other than that, it's compact. You're going to have fire rated situations from wall to wall, but it looks like you got 8-inch concrete blocks separating it. That'll all be through the building department. You'll figure that out. And then again, like Brenda said, if you do have gutters, your gutter guy is going to like you. It's a nice project. Interesting solution. I like it. Larry, good job.
Thank you.
Any other
The
comments?
applicant.
Oh, yeah. Good, Larry.
I do have one comment that I'd like to call to the attention. I haven't spoken to them yet, but I did pick up, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, the second unit in, if I'm reading that dimension correctly, it's 19 feet or 16 feet from the garage front to the street?
It does say 19, so if you want that to be 20, we can make that adjustment.
Need it to be 20.
Okay.
Is this considered a side street with that Palm Drive?
Yes,
So the setback would be 10 feet minimum? Or is that,
not on the mainland.
oh, that's right, on the mainland it is because it's
It's 15.
So here it'd be 15, okay. Yeah, if you have if we meet lot coverage, maximum lot coverage and stormwater drainage,
Keep in mind, this application does have to go to St. John's Water Management District for approval, so the stormwater aspect of the plan will need their approval.
right, which is good. Joe, I know you can do that.
We can get it done.
Any other comments? Hearing none, open to the public. Any public comments? Seeing none, close public comment. And this is just a conceptual review, so we're really, I guess we thank you for showing us it and allowing us to give some input, and you can hear our concerns.
Well, we appreciate the feedback. I know in the beginning of a project, it always makes more sense to get the city involved so we can make sure that we're appeasing everybody and we're coming out with a product that's not just satisfying to you, works for our developer, but also works for the community. So we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda,
Board comment.
board comments.
It's gonna be quick.
Already there.
Already there. Larry, what's this packet in front of us? Is that for us?
No,
Oh.
that was, someone didn't show up for the meeting prior to this.
Oh, okay. Okay, I was gonna say. Do we have homework? All right.
You will have soon.
All right. Yeah, well, yeah, soon. Anyone on the board, any comments? Okay. Entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion